We are the Creating a Resilient Community Network, and we want you to know why PACEs matter. Our multi-sector group of over 300 members and 150 organizations here in Central Florida hope to transform our region into one of prevention, hope, healing, and resilience for all. Once providers learn about ACEs and understand the long-term impacts, they should start asking important questions like, what can I do about it in my family, in my patients, and in my community? Adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, are potentially traumatic events that occur in childhood from birth to 17 years of age. They include physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, physical and emotional neglect, and various forms of household dysfunction, such as having a parent with mental illness, incarcerated or struggling with substance abuse, seeing a mother treated violently, and experiencing divorce. The term ACEs originated from a groundbreaking study conducted in 1995 by the Centers for Disease Control and Kaiser Permanente. Dr. Vincent Folletti and Dr. Robert Anda surveyed over 17,000 mostly educated, middle-class, white, insured patients in San Diego County, California, and they found that ACEs are incredibly common. Since the ACE study, a 25-state survey of adults supported that ACEs are quite common and occur in all socioeconomic backgrounds. About 61% of adults surveyed reported they experienced at least one type of ACE, and nearly 1 in 6 reported experiencing 4 or more ACEs. The ACE pyramid illustrates the mechanisms by which ACEs influence health and well-being throughout a person's lifespan. You can see that ACEs is the third level on the pyramid, but the base of the pyramid begins with generational embodiment and historical trauma. As you can see, each level on the pyramid negatively impacts the health and well-being of an individual and can lead to early death. Additionally, childhood trauma occurs across 3 realms as seen in this graphic. ACEs are represented on the tree. Adverse community experiences are represented in the soil, tainting the roots of the tree. And adverse climate experiences are represented as various natural disasters that influence overall health. As you can see, all 3 realms are interconnected. ACEs are costly. They are linked to 6 of the top 10 leading causes of death in the U.S., such as 1.9 million cases of heart disease. 51% of children with an ACE score of 4 or more had learning and behavior problems in school, compared with only 3% of children with an ACE score of 0. The economic and social cost to families, communities, and society totals hundreds of billions of dollars each year. This highlights why preventing ACEs is crucial. As your ACE score increases, so does the risk of disease, social and emotional problems. This is called a dose-response relationship. Compared to persons with no ACEs, a person with 4 or more ACEs was found to be 12.2 times as likely to have attempted suicide and nearly 2 times as likely to have had heart disease and cancer. Stress is a normal part of life, but when children experience trauma without a safe, stable, nurturing relationship and environment or buffering, ACEs can lead to toxic stress, putting the developing child in a prolonged state of fight, flight, or freeze, which can show up in their behaviors, learning, and health conditions. The overactive stress response system leads to elevated stress hormone levels, which damages the developing brain and body systems. In this graphic, you see on the right an abnormal brain scan in a child who experienced extreme deprivation in infancy in comparison to a child with a healthy brain on the left. And the science of epigenetics shows at the level of DNA, toxic stress also changes the way genes are read and transcribed. These alterations can be passed down through generations. One way to help address ACEs in clinical practice is to screen for ACEs. The ACE score is a tool to show the dose of childhood adversity, show health risk, and initiate pathways toward healing. Regular screening for ACEs is recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics. Screening can be done in a de-identified way and helps to normalize ACEs. To date, there are various screening questionnaires. The graphic on the right shows the Pediatric ACEs and Related Life Events Screener, or PEARLS tool. Remember, ACEs are part of a person's story, but not necessarily their destiny. The good news is we can overcome ACEs and the brain and body can heal. And if we go back to the original question of what can you do about ACEs, there are a number of interventions that can be taken to mitigate the worst effects of trauma and help people move forward to have healthy and productive lives. First, humans are extremely resilient. Resilience is defined as the ability to roll with the punches. When stress, adversity, or trauma strike, it's natural to experience anger, grief, and pain, but with resiliency, you're able to keep functioning, both physically and psychologically. We cannot take away someone's trauma, but there is much we can do to build resilience. When positive experiences outweigh negative experiences, a child's scale tips toward positive outcomes. Moving from ACEs to hope or healthy outcomes from positive experiences represents a shift in how we see and talk about the positive experiences that support children's growth and development into healthy, resilient adults. As just mentioned, positive childhood experiences are critical for children to build resilience and to mitigate the effects of toxic stress. Examples of positive childhood experiences may include feeling a sense of belonging in school, feeling supported by friends, or having at least two non-parent adults who genuinely care. Similar to ACEs, positive childhood experiences have a dose-response relationship. That means the more positive childhood experiences a person has, the better health outcomes they may experience. As a provider, delivering trauma-informed care is critical in mitigating the impact of toxic stress. Trauma-informed care is an approach to engage people with histories of trauma that recognizes the presence of trauma symptoms and acknowledges the role that trauma has played in their lives. The reality is that becoming trauma-informed is a process and takes time. However, the first step of that process is to become trauma-aware and understand how trauma impacts others, which we hope you have learned during this training. By using a protective factors approach, providers can also help parents find resources and support that emphasize their strengths while also identifying areas where assistance is needed. These 6 factors are conditions or attributes in individuals, families, and communities that can help prevent, buffer, and heal trauma in various ways and include concrete support, social and emotional competence, parental resilience, social connections, knowledge of parenting and child development, and nurturing and attachment. Finally, Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris's prescription for healing toxic stress by regulating a dysfunctional stress response system includes 7 healing practices that you can also prescribe your patients. They include sleep, exercise, nutrition, mindfulness, mental health care, healthy relationships, and getting out in nature. Her book, The Deepest Well, highlights her work in the field of ACEs. To conclude, as providers, we have to make a personal perspective shift from what is wrong with you to what happened to you or to what is right with you. Inspired by Dr. Sean Ginwright's Healing Centered Engagement approach. Let's change the lens through which we view behavior and make the shift to better understand ACEs, their long-lasting effects in our patients, and the paths toward healing. In addition to making a paradigm shift, if you are looking for something else that you can do today to become more trauma aware, please consider joining ACEs Connection Central Florida. And for additional resources to begin addressing ACEs in your practice, please feel free to leverage any of the sites indicated on the screen. Thank you for your participation.